Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Got another Yu-Gi-Oh video for you guys today. As you guys have been seeing some Yu-Gi-Oh content on the channel here and there, I'm trying to get back into the game because I'm really excited for the new Cyber Dragon support. I know it's been all Cyber Dragon videos, but I'm just too hyped for the deck, and honestly it's given me a good reason to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh. So yeah, here we are. I've got some more replays for you guys. I'm gonna do kind of what I did with my last video, where it's a recording of my gameplay, and we're gonna talk you guys through what I was going. I will say the three games that I have here are all us going second, which I know is normally Cyber Dragon's bread and butter, but the truth is people get salty, especially when you start comboing off, and they just tend to quit. So the reason I got the deck build up here now, because this was the deck build I was messing around with. The first game has this deck build, but the last two have a whole different deck build that I'm going to show you guys, because I wanted to try messing around with one of my favorite cards again, which was Duality. So I'm going to show you guys the first game, then I'll show you guys how I changed the deck, and then we'll go into the next two games. So if you guys enjoy this kind of content, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's jump in and check it out. So first thing you guys will notice, obviously these replays aren't on Yugioh Omega, because getting replays on Yugioh Omega was a lot harder than EDO Pro. EDO Pro, it's a lot easier to find games to be able to try out the new stuff, whereas Yugioh Omega, you have to jump through a lot of hoops. So I just used EDO Pro, even though I definitely do not like EDO Pro as much as I do Yugioh Omega. But let's jump in. So as I said at the beginning, all these games we went second. In this game we went against a Terrell Elements player, and we actually, spoiler alert, we ended up losing this game. But I want you to see how many interruptions we were able to play through, and I want to say it came down to his very last interruption where we actually lost. So starting off, he milled 5. Now he's doing a bunch of his graveyard shenanigans. Terrell Elements is still a deck that I hate playing against. Now he's making fusion. I tried to cut out some of the dead space to try and make it as short as possible. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit because he does go into a really long combo. So I want to get to the end board so you guys can see the end board, and then see how we try and break it. All right, so this is our opponent's end board with a Druid's Worm in hand. So he has a lot. So I don't know if this was a misplay or not. He does Abyss Dweller. I was planning on using Cyber Dark Worm, so I end up using Forbidden Droplet here to negate it, and to negate the Baron while I was at it. Now, maybe I also think I should have discarded the OG Cyber Dragon here. Oh, wait, I do. And I think I discard Overflow. I discard Overflow because obviously we're going second. Overflow doesn't really help me. I should have discarded the Poly 2 to negate the Spray Elf. I don't know why I didn't. I guess I was hoping I could make another fusion play with the polymerization. Also, Cyber Jormungandr getting banished was the one card in the deck we didn't want to get banished because we wanted to be able to search that card. So we play Core, follows up with Scream, mills 3, gives all of our stuff minus 500. That's not a big deal. Then he changed Sprite Elf to Special Summon. We grab Cyber Dark Realm. He starts triggering his effects because of Special Summons and mills. And there he goes, milling another 5. You know, Elements, it's not your turn, it's our turn. Havness. Merly. Elements is a lot to keep up with. And then, yeah. So now he's got a monster negate. I want to say a pop. I don't remember what all the Tournament cards do. But so we start going into our Cyber Dragon combo now. Cyber Dark Realm. We already have Chimera, so we don't need the search. So I was hoping he would just negate the search. But he didn't get baited. We add Claw just to thin out the deck a little more. Claw effects. Add us Horizon. We don't need Horizon, but it is discard fodder. Now we use Realm, special summon up. Additional normal summon Chimera. Now we link Core away into Clockwork Knight. Bam. Clockwork Knight effects, getting rid of Cyber Dark Realm. And this is where our opponent uses their negate. Because otherwise we would have got Clockwork Knight. They have no spell and trap negates, and then we could have just contact viewed their entire board. So they made a good choice there. Well, their entire board minus what? Rukalos? That's the one that's can't be used as fusion material, right? I could be wrong. But we activate Chimera, ditching Horizon, grab the Power Bond. I use SP Little Knight to banish one of his monsters. And then I chain Chimera, sending Worm to the grave. Now, I didn't mind using SP Little Knight's effect. I know SP Little Knight's effect says I can't attack directly, but we were never planning on attacking directly. I was planning on winning by making myself big enough to be able to swing over as monsters and go for game. With Baron at 15 and Abyss Dweller at 12, and you know they have a Fortunate monster, if I was able to go into Rampage, I could have swung at all three and that would have been enough damage, with Rampage being at 42 because of the power bond. But they chain Kelbeck, special summon Kelbeck. And then they also chain the drop card, which is going to negate our SP Little Knight. Right? Yeah. And they also got the Baron off the field, which I wasn't happy about. But now we follow up with Worm. We dumped Naxter because we were going to try and get Naxter back. They follow up with this effect to shuffle a bunch of monsters back into deck, which I was not happy about because now we don't get to special summon Worm, which means we also don't get the spell card back. So we follow up with Power Bond, and they use another engrave effect, Yugioh, I believe it is, to then shuffle up that one, Keldo, which now shuffles 3 more back into deck, which were all my fusion materials. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a fusion. So this is unfortunately where my turn ends. Even polymerization I couldn't use because I'm not 100% sure on that ruling, but because I didn't make a fusion, I don't know if the next time if Chimera's effect was still in play to allow me to fuse from my grave again, but at that point I had no plays. So that game I left in because of, you could see, guys, it took, we were almost able to play through what, 5 interruptions, and if that power bond had resolved, we actually could have stolen the game. But let me know what you got, how you guys would have played through that, especially with that hand. Again, I am just coming back to Yu-Gi-Oh, so I'm really trying to get back into figuring out the intricacies again. At one point I was really trying to be more competitive with the game, but that was what, a year ago. Now, though, this is how I changed the deck after that last game. So while I was practicing, I was running into problems where I was running out of resources really fast. Especially since I'm only playing one copy of the fusions like Rampage. If I didn't kill them with Rampage, especially if I used Rampage to make Infinity, I had no way to get my Rampage back, especially to pump it up, which is why I wanted to mess around with Duality again, because besides the fact that Duality gives you, some flexibility options, it also can shuffle your light and dark monsters back into deck, which actually makes Jormungandr better, because if you pull Cyber Dragon out of the deck, you can send it back with Duality. Same with Rampage, as well as your contact fusion targets. Duality is just still a really solid card, and I wanted to see if it still gelled with the new support. So we took this and we went into some more games. All right, so here's the next game, and again we went going second, and we're actually up against a Labyrinth player, and this was a slaughterfest. This one I left in because I was kind of happy about it. So we go, as you see, we have no monsters in hand. I do make one misplay, I'll talk about that as we go, but I have no monsters in hand, and watch what we're able to do. So they use Trap Trick, remove a Welcome Labyrinth, set a Welcome Labyrinth. Now they can activate that Welcome Labyrinth. They did that in the draw phase, and in the standby, still in the draw phase, my mistake. They activate the Welcome Labyrinth to summon a monster. And now that can't be targeted by traps, which we have in permanence, but now it doesn't work. So we start off with Cyberdark Realm. Cyberdark Realm lets us add a Cyberdark monster, so we grab Cyberdark Chimera. Now, because we played the Call by the Grave, if they had a hand trap, we would have had that, but they do still have 3 face down. So now, this was my misplay right here. I should have used Cyberdark Realm to gain the additional normal summon to summon Chimera, because I do have a way to get core, and I could have normal summoned core, but by doing this normal summon here, I made it so I can't summon core. This was my misplay, and right after I did it, I was like, shit, I should have used the effect of Cyberdark Realm. but you guys will still get to see a pretty cool line of play. Because now we activate Chimera's effect, discarding Duality, which is going to set up Duality's graveyard effect to add Power Bond, to then link into Clockwork Knight effect, and Chimera effect both trigger. Chimera to send Worm, Clockwork Knight to send Realm to grab Clockwork Knight. And now we dump Worm. I'm gonna activate Worm effect. This card is so good. Worm, I know Worm is a once per duel, but man, does that card facilitate so much. We send Hertz, grab Worm, Hertz effect. Well, Worm effect to grab back Cyber Dark Realm. Now Hertz effect to grab Cyber Dragon from the deck. At this point, I was just making sure I was seeing what I had for graveyard effects. Wasn't sure, and then I realized I could have used Duality there. Now we're using Clockwork Knight since we don't have a way to discard it. Now this also messes with Labyrinth a little bit because a lot of their effects require you to have a Phenom. Well, not too many, but some of them are like you have to have a Phenom on board, then you can bounce a Fiend. So by them not having Phenom on board, and with whatever monster they summon being a machine, they can't resolve some of their traps. So, machines. Now we use Polymerization. We decide to go with Polymerization here and not Power Bond yet, because we want to say Power Bond for when we're going for the kill. But the effect of Chimera says the next time you make a fusion, you can use, material from your hand, field, and graveyard. It doesn't say it has to be Power Bond, so we end up using the Polymerization to save on the Power Bond. So we use the Cyber Dragon in our hand and the Hertz in our grave to get Rampage. Then we use Rampage effect to pop 2 back row. Bang, bang. Double checking what's in our grave. We end up activating the effect to dump. We dump Union Driver just to set them up. We're not planning on attacking with this one. That's why we didn't want to go too crazy. And now we activate Duality. Send back Cyber Dragon to make sure it's in the grave, and we send back Chimera. And our opponent ended there. Now, just to continue where we were going, I wish I could have kept playing, but the program literally kicks you out the game. But we sent back Cyber Dragon and Chimera because we wanted to be able to send our cards back. We were going to get to draw a card. We were going to overlay into Infinity. We were going to detach to Special Summon because we have Cyber Dragons in the grave. Just want to look at exactly what was in my grave. So if we had detached Worm, we would have been able to... The only thing I shouldn't have done was I shouldn't have used Duality so early. I guess that would be a second misplay, because we should have overlaid into Infinity, detached Rampage to Special Summon anything. To special summon any Cyber Dragon. We could have special summoned the Cyber Dragon Naxter, which would have also let us special summon the OG Cyber Dragon from the grave, the one that we were sending back the deck, then overlay into Infinity. Then we use Duality, send back Jormungandr back to deck with Rampage, and then we could use Power Bond on the Naxter and the OG Cyber Dragon to make a powered up Rampage, which would have then been able to pop their last back row card, and then also been able to dump 2 more, giving us the game. And we still would have had 4 cards in hand, which is crazy because we would have set 3 if our opponent lived and kept Cyber Dark Realm. Granted, we don't have another. Well, depending on what, no, because with Duality we would have sent back Rampage, so we wouldn't have had the Chimera back in deck. But just some flexibility options that we could have done because we had the Duality there. But let me know what you guys. I called out my 2 misplays, but let me know what you guys would have done different. So again, this was one that we went second. This was another one that wasn't great. I didn't really want to use this one, but we got to see a little bit of some of the things that can make Jormungandr an actual good card, so I decided to keep the replay. Our opponent doesn't really set up much of a board, but I wanted to show what I could really start to flex with a little bit. It sucks trying to get footage because people just up and quit. So it's like I wanted to play a little more. So we start going with some baits. Cyber Dark Claw is one card that we never care if it gets negated. We grab Realm just to make sure we have it. Oh no, we grab Horizon. I thought I should have grabbed Realm. But then we hit Emergency. Emergency grabs us Core. I hesitate on Jormungandr because I'm like, my opponent has a monster, but Core can get Cyber Repair Plant, which can get us into Jormungandr anyway. This is also when I realized I should have grabbed Realm instead of Horizon, because then I could have done all that without interrupting my own play, but I kind of interrupt my own play here. We also had the Ash Blossom and the Crossout Designator. Our opponent Solemn Strikes us. I forgot about the Solemn Strike, so we don't even get to summon our monster. But it's okay, we're still able to very much play. Oh, I forgot it was Altergeist, and then he tried to go for a search. Oh no, he tried to special summon from the deck. That's what it was. And then we hit him with the Ash. Sorry, I forgot about this game. So now we follow up with Horizon. Okay, so maybe Horizon was the right choice. Because now we send Chimera and Hertz. Which is going to add us. We're actually going to add Jormungandr. I know, crazy Jormungandr. We dump Eternity Dragon. And then we trigger the effects of Chimera and Hertz. Hertz is going to get us back a Cyber Dragon, and Chimera is going to dump our Worm. Boom. And then we're actually going to add back Core. Now, a lot of times you would actually add the Cyber Dragon. It's actually not bad to add it now, especially since our opponent has a monster and we have none. We can special summon the Cyber Dragon, Duality shenanigans, but we already searched Jormungandr, so we want to leave the Cyber Dragon in deck. I've honestly thought about upping Cyber Dragon to 2, because a lot of times I'll pull it out of deck and Jormungandr becomes a dead card. I know people are hating on Jormungandr, but it's actually not a terrible card. Just the needing to have Cyber Dragon in the deck is the only thing that really drags it down for me. I think it's a really solid going second card. But now we activate Worm. We dump Naxter just to get it out of the deck. Special summon the Worm. Worm effect to add. Add Emergency for next turn. Now, I decide here to use Eternity Dragon's effect. So for anybody that doesn't know what Eternity's graveyard effect is, you can banish it from the grave, and for this turn, none of your fusion monsters can be targeted or destroyed by card effects. The way I saw it was I have Duality, so I can use Duality to get out a Rampage, and now that Rampage is basically immune to everything. But we end up using Jormungandra's effect, special summon the Cyber Dragon, and we still have Duality in hand. I was going to overlay into Nova, and our opponent quit. Now, with what we have here, we could ideally overlay into Nova, Duality the Cyber Dragon, get out Rampage. We won't be able to pop the back row, unfortunately, but then we can detach off of the Nova to special summon Naxter to then special summon the Cyber Dragon from the grave. We could also do that with either Jormungandr or Worm because they both have 2100 defense, so I could have just did it that way to then go into Infinity. Then we can also link it to Seeger plus the Rampage. Even though the Rampage is at 21, Seeger will make it 42, and that's pretty much the game. Because then we could swing over the Multi-Faker with Seeger, swing over to the Face Down with Infinity, and then swing for game with Rampage. So that's just some of the cool things you can do with Duality. It's still a solid card, and now that we have more pluses and more ways to get into our pieces, it actually makes it a stronger card because now we don't need to, see it plus something else that's not searchable. All right, guys, here's one more look at the version that we were messing around with. The only one of the other things that I added in was Union Driver. If you go into the whole normal Cyber Dragon combat that we have now, when you summon Rampage, you can dump Union Driver to then summon Therion King and equip Human Driver, overlay into Infinity, and then you can still have an extra level 5 monster because of Nova. You can then summon Union Driver off its own effect, and now you can make Vamana. So you can end on SP Little Knight, Infinity, Vamana, and Therion King with the just core. It's fantastic. But I would love to hear what other things you guys are experimenting with. Duality is one of my favorite cards. That's why I'm going to keep experimenting with it. But I want to see this deck do things. I want to see somebody top with Cyber Dragon. I'm going to try to, once these cards come out. I'm going to seriously get back into, studying the meta and whatnot, and seeing what other combos people have come up with. But again, if you guys enjoy this kind of content and want to see more, let me know in the comments. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links are also down below. That's it from me. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.